Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a chance to refresh your coffee and perhaps catch the MIT Inside Track session on personal robotics from the MIT Media Lab. If you missed that session, the replay will be available by the end of the day and yours to review for a full year. In our final segment of the day, we're moving into the clouds. The cloud presents an incredible trillion-dollar opportunity, and our presenting partner, McKinsey, has some interesting research to present that clarifies where the value lies and how to capture it before your competitors do. With me today are Aamer Baig and Gada Ejem. Aamer leads McKinsey's work in technology in North America and brings more than 2 decades of experience helping clients use digital technologies to drive innovation, transform customer experience, and improve productivity. Gada is the CIO of the Federal Reserve, where she oversees the system IT strategy and directs the management of national IT operations. Gada is herself an industry veteran with 2 decades of experience in strategic IT leadership at organizations ranging from Intel and EmTech to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So the plan here is to start with the research, and in a second, I'll give the floor to Aamer and have him walk us through that. Then we'll spend the rest of the time digging into my questions and yours. As you've been doing all day, please enter any questions for our speakers in the chat, and I'll work them into our conversation. Aamer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And the research that McKinsey did is indeed quite interesting. Some 15 years into the cloud phenomena, it's clear that there's tremendous value from adoption of the cloud. Our research suggests this is to the tune of $1 trillion or more, just for Fortune 500 companies alone. Our research looked at the pools of value and the real drivers of value at an industry by industry level. What we see here is there are 3 dimensions of where this value is coming from. The first one we call rejuvenate. This is about leveraging the cloud in the technology organization to drive improvement in productivity and effectiveness. The second one is around reducing the risk of the organization by improving resilience and your risk posture, as well as digitizing your core business. That's all what we call rejuvenate. The second one is what we call innovate. This is about innovation by new product introductions driven by AI, IoT, as well as growth. Now, another dimension inside innovation is around accelerated product development, as well as getting access to hyperscalability. The third dimension is, as the name suggests, pioneer. This is about adoption of newer technologies that have not yet fully matured in large organizations, in particular, like blockchain, quantum computing, and embracing the cloud to test, learn, and expand the frontiers of your organization. Collectively, this results in about $1 trillion in value. Really quite compelling and really quite ambitious. And this is where we believe it pays to be bold in the cloud. As you saw in the previous slide, the value of the cloud is coming from outside the technology realm for the most part, where cloud is in fact an enabler or a catalyst for driving a real transformation or a real change in the business. In order to achieve that, we believe there are 3 elements that are essential, that are integrative. That means they're intertwined and have to be addressed somewhat at the same time. The first element is what we call on this slide strategy and management. This is what sets the direction of the cloud program, sets the business case, figures out the operating model or how the organization is going to work in a cloud adopted world, sets the risk posture of the organization, as well as lays out the roadmap and the sequencing in which you will take on this big opportunity. The second one is what we call business domain adoption, which moves and transforms each domain, whether it's a business or a function, onto the cloud at a pace and risk that delivers the value that's commensurate for what the organization is taking on. And finally, the third is about building foundational capabilities. It is not a transformation unless there's a change in how the organization works and a new muscle is being developed. This has to focus on how the organization ultimately operates and involves setting up the people constructs, the new processes, the operating model, and the risk posture, as well as how the financial management of this incredible opportunity unfolds. So collectively, we believe this leads to a full transformation and not just adoption of cloud for cloud's sake. Back to you, Elizabeth.
So thank you, Aamer. That's great to see, great to understand. I'm looking forward to digging a little bit deeper in a few things. So let's do that now. Gada, I would like to throw the first question to you. So McKinsey has a triad, kind of a framework, rejuvenate, innovate, pioneer, about an organization's cloud strategy. And so maybe start by telling us how the Federal Reserve is tackling this across those dimensions, please.
Great. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me. I certainly can see the Rejuvenate, Innovate, Pioneer framework that Aamer discussed as being very relevant to how we've thought about the value from the cloud. On the Rejuvenate side, given the Fed's mission and critical role in the global financial economy, we have a very high standards for resiliency and security, and we've met those needs traditionally with our existing data centers. The transformation strategy and the case for change to go to the cloud and modernize our business processes was centered around building that resilient and secure foundation of the future. We're targeting to enable a 24/7 operations, real-time systems by taking advantage of the high availability and the resiliency that's built into the geographically dispersed and diverse hosting options that the cloud offers. We're accelerating the retirement of tech debt in our legacy systems. We're leveraging the technology advancement offered by the cloud service providers at a pace that's much faster than our traditional pace. And we believe that the cloud technology will help us increase the pace of infrastructure refresh. All that adds up to a more secure, resilient, and highly available tech foundation. On the innovate, we absolutely see the need to keep pace with the business innovation and the industry. Our business partners across all of our key Federal Reserve mission focus areas, supervision and regulation, our payment services, our economic research, and our monetary policy areas are asking for us to modernize. The cloud technology, along with agile practices, as Aamer highlighted, that we need to change the way we deliver, will position us to deliver innovative solution at the pace that the business needs us to deliver. We also care about innovation and made it a priority for us. And we recently hired the first chief innovation officer for the system because we believe that innovation is a business imperative. We're also leveraging SaaS solutions to modernize our backend processes. And the latest introduction is the introduction of a SaaS solution for our financial procurement and HR platforms that's helping us modernize those business processes. And lastly, on Pioneer, I think there are some interesting pioneering technologies around blockchain and quantum that we're watching very closely. This is where building in the cloud can really help us future-proof the way that we deliver technology and prepare us for that future.
Okay, well, there's a lot to come back to there, but first let me ask Aamer. I'm going to bring you back in. Tell us a bit more about the research. So maybe what surprised you most about it? What was found that you perhaps didn't anticipate?
Thanks, Elizabeth. The scale of the opportunity was quite surprising to us. We didn't expect $1 trillion in aggregate. And as you know, this was a research that was done somewhat bottom up, industry by industry, and looking at Fortune 500 companies. and looking at the technology drivers and the business drivers that could unlock this opportunity. So the big take-home message for us was boldness and scale are important here to really capture the opportunity. And then the second one, perhaps not surprising for us, but validating, was the real opportunity is from making this a change in the business as opposed to just implementing cloud, which is a technology.
Got it. Let's talk about the skills and the capabilities within the organization that you also need to build, I would assume, to enable a cloud transformation. Is that something you're addressing?
You're absolutely spot on, Elizabeth. We know that migrating and operating in the cloud requires a lot of new skills, from cloud engineering to data science to financial operations in a world where technology is consumed. We looked at our talent and we did a workforce assessment as we started this journey. And we're advancing the 30-30-30 model. So 30% of our workforce are ready now with the right skills and actually working on some of those programs that we're advancing around cloud. We have an upskill and a reskill program, and it's aimed at advancing the skills of at least 30% of the organization with cloud, agile, product management, and reliability engineering. And we will be using different sourcing models to fill the remaining 30%. We're leveraging vendors, we're leveraging our new college hire programs, and other talent acquisition initiatives across the system. We are a federated system of 12 reserve banks that have the application development teams and a central infrastructure and shared services organization. So the way we are approaching this to make it consumable for us and for the business is business-led. So we're letting the reserve banks and business lines set the priorities and set the pace. And we're aligning our investments and our talent and the work that needs to happen to run at the pace of the business. And to create the momentum, again, change is hard for an organization that is 100 years old. So to create the momentum, we're using the concept of lighthouses, or in other words, pilots, where we're using them to serve as proof points for the cloud technology, the agile practices, and the accelerated delivery that we expect as a result of that. So a project that typically would take a year at the Fed is taking 90 days. And success breeds success. And that's how we're generating the buzz and the momentum to allow us to move forward.
Are you using this lighthouse approach? You talked about the innovation and kind of thinking about what might be next. You talked about blockchain and you mentioned quantum. Are those folks also doing those sorts of pilots to see what might be workable in a part of one of the other banks in the Federation to then share across? How does that work?
So if our chief innovation officer was talking to you, she'll say, we're not going to chase the shiny objects. We're going to go chase the business problems. So what we are doing with our innovation program, we're having conversations with the business leaders to identify business problems that we need to solve. And then we apply the right technology to solve those problems. So that's how we're approaching innovation. However, with the quantum and the blockchain, we do have a little small R&D projects that are going on, and I'm sure you hear about the MIT project around the CBDC that's going between the Boston Reserve Bank and MIT. So we do have some of those small innovation R&D work that we're doing with universities, but our innovation program is centered around finding the business problem and then proofing the technology to solve that problem.
Thank you. Aamer, I would love to bring you back in here. Talk to us about the risks associated with a large transformation and what kinds of challenges most organizations face when doing this sort of thing.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. I think Ghana covered a lot of best practices in terms of how she described the initiative that's being pursued at the Federal Reserve System. But unfortunately, in our research, we found that as much as 70% of cloud programs actually fail or get stalled. The main drivers are either lack of a clear understanding of the business case and the value associated with the cloud. Another reason is this is viewed as a technology project without appropriate top management buy-in and stakeholder alignment. Another issue is there were actually some very thorny technical issues that were swept under the carpet, and really difficult technology architecture decisions were not made appropriately. So collectively, when you put all of those together, this actually is a complicated initiative. That being said, there's a recipe that's emerging, and Gara covered a few of the most important elements of how to make this successful. For the scale of the opportunity that we're talking about and where value is coming from, it's really important to have C-suite buy-in. It cannot just be driven from the CIO's office. It is a partnership between the CIO, the CFO, the Chief Human Resources Officer, and the CEO, because there are elements of people, finance, and technology, and the business that are important. You need a much stronger understanding of the economics, because there are ways you can go forward with cloud that end up costing you more. So you want to manage that really, really well. You want to have a robust architecture and make sure you've addressed all of those issues. Finally, I would just want to give a tip of the hat to Gata mentioning the 30-30-30 on talent as well, because this requires a new skill set. But you can't get all those people from the outside. So there's a huge opportunity for people inside the organization to actually learn and adopt not just the technology that is cloud, but the business opportunities that cloud enables. And finally, this ultimately has to be tied into business process and business transformation to make it successful. So that's how we've seen things work out well when it goes right.
I feel like if there's one message that always seems to come through when I do these sorts of sessions talking about big transformation projects, it's always about C-suite buy-in. That just seems like the constant refrain. So relatedly, I'm interested in how either one of you could answer this. I'm interested in what you see as being necessary, not only for the C-suite buy-in for the decision as to go or not go with a particular transformation project, but how you also think about cultural change to get the organization moving in this direction and really facilitate this transformation. Either one of you.
So Aamer, I can jump in and feel free to add your perspective as well. Just my experience within the Fed as well as in other organizations, you build a very strong case for change, and it has to be tied to either a burning platform or a value proposition that's really important for the mission of the organization. So that's step one. But again, the first initial buy-in is not enough. So therefore, providing the visibility on the progress and creating those incremental wins. I mean, the organization doesn't have the patience to wait 5 years to get the value, and the cloud gives us the luxury of incremental delivery. So start showing successes and wins for the organization, which allows the organization to be patient, because that's a long journey. Those are two techniques that I have used successfully to allow us to keep that focus, keep that momentum going forward.
If I can just perhaps add to Gada's great answer here, I think there is a huge opportunity for creating evangelists in the organization based on how work gets done. The context around which business and technology groups work together, or you can call it product and engineering teams, has to be different and tied to a specific business objective. The visibility to top management is usually a big motivator. I think transparency in how people work is usually a cultural unlock. There are usually layers and layers of reporting that happen in an organization. When you flatten all of that out and people are actually working on something that meets a customer's need, that usually creates a great flywheel of progress. that allows the cultural change to happen.
Fantastic. We've got some questions that have been coming in that the team here is sorting for me. So we'll try and get to as many of them as we can. I've got one for you, Gada. RTGS, real-time gross settlement with FedNow is on the horizon. A very exciting time to be in the business of moving money. This is from an audience member called Nazar. Excuse me if I don't pronounce that properly. Do you see a new wave of innovation possibilities around what RTGS will bring to consumer banks, businesses, and the greater economy?
I think the simple answer is yes. It is a very exciting time to be in the payment system, and the program team is doing really innovative work to advance this program for the Fed. And we're already talking to partners and other entities across the industry to identify the possibilities that could happen around the FedNow or the RTGS platform. So more to come. It's under development, but definitely we see it as a platform that other parts of the industry can connect to and take advantage of.
All right, I'm going to try and get one more under the wire, if I may. It comes from a comment that we transformed into a question from someone in the audience called Evgenia. How important is a knowledge management strategy to a digital transformation project? Aamer, maybe you could take that one.
I think it becomes exceptionally important in terms of codifying institutional knowledge that is gained and spread. So I would say it is not just the system, but the community and the exchanges that need to be formed in the context of doing this work.
Wonderful. I mean, it's great to see the pulling together of the technology and the people who are going to be using, evangelizing, spreading the use of the technology. Often we talk about one or the other, and obviously these things need to be locked together and moved together. So Aamer, Gada, that was brilliant. That was very insightful. We appreciate your time and for also the chat with the audience.